security, fire safety, or building management. Digitalization creates new freedoms because you simply don't have to, buy the system. You can just use them as a service. Smart buildings also offer interesting perspectives when it comes to energy. Now, in the future, battery storage systems in buildings and building complexes are likely to become more and more important. They enable completely new savings possibilities, but also new business models. Lithium-ion rechargeable batteries are used in such systems. However, the use of these storage solutions also creates new risks and raises questions regarding safety. So how can this future technology be used safely and the risk of fire be minimized? For this, we'd like to go back to Switzerland, and we're going to welcome our next expert, Jonathan Copley, who knows more. Jonathan, welcome.
Thank you. I'm very, very happy to tell you about the latest world-beating fire protection Siemens system from Siemens. And I'm referring, of course, to our new solution for preventing fire and explosion in lithium-ion energy storage systems. So let's look at the background to this. It's no surprise to any of you that there is a growing demand for renewables driven by climate change, but this has its own challenges. Some days it's sunny, some days it's not, some days the wind is blowing like crazy, some days not at all. So we have a fluctuating supply, and that means we need to balance supply and demand, and we do that with energy storage. It's been found that the best and most effective energy storage is the lithium-ion battery. And for that reason, it's really not a surprise that the number of installations is growing almost exponentially. So where are these installations being used? Now, as I've mentioned, close by renewable energy plant for stabilizing the grid and also managing peak load. But we also see lithium-ion batteries used in vehicle charging infrastructure and also as a backup power supply, for example, for a hospital or for a data center. Now, as was mentioned a couple of minutes ago, there are some problems here. If you take the example of Korea, in 2018, they were the leading, or one of the leading countries for the installation of lithium-ion battery installations. And there were, unfortunately, 21 very serious cases of fire and explosion. And each of these events led to significant losses, between 1 and in some cases more than 10 million US dollars per event. So, not good. Let's take a look at what's really happening here and what's going wrong. You can see on the far left, there's a representation of a battery cell. And what happens is that there is at some point a short circuit inside the battery. And this can be caused by the aging process of the battery or sometimes by a mechanical defect. The short circuit inside the battery then causes heating of the battery, and at some point, perhaps around 80 degrees centigrade, the electrolyte inside the battery begins to boil and is released from the cell itself. Bear in mind, this is highly combustible gas. And the temperature doesn't stop, it carries on increasing, and then at some point, the separator between the anode and cathode in the battery, it fails. The chemical process completely changes, and the temperature just goes through the roof. And then, not surprisingly, these highly combustible gases lead to an explosion. So what can we do? Fortunately, Siemens has developed a very special solution for this case. Here you see in this picture, once again, the short circuit, the release of the highly combustible electrolyte gases, but in this case we have a detector which detects almost immediately the gas release and initiates a release of nitrogen gas into the whole container. Now this nitrogen, it displaces the oxygen and completely prevents any possibility of fire or explosion, and it holds the situation completely safely until the emergency services can arrive. Now you might be asking yourself, why do we not use water extinguishing in this case? And there are some very clear reasons. Firstly, water spray creates some shadows, so you really cannot guarantee that the fire is extinguished and that explosions do not occur. But there's another really serious problem, and that is that the whole process of failure of the battery results in some very toxic chemicals, hydrogen fluorides, and they can mix with the water, penetrate the ground, even go into the groundwater, and might even demand evacuation of the local population. So you can see using water can lead to very, very bad environmental damage. So, as I was saying, the really best answer is very, very early detection and then suppression using nitrogen. And in this way, you can be 100% sure of protecting your energy storage assets and at the same time, really protecting the environment, something that's very close to Siemens' heart. And finally, I should mention that Siemens is the only company that has the internationally recognized VDS approval for its Sonorix extinguishing system for lithium-ion battery storage installation. So you can be completely confident, completely sure that all your risks and liabilities are very effectively managed if you choose this solution from Siemens. Thank you.
All right, thank you also, Jonathan. But we do have a question coming in here now. Are such solutions becoming standardized?
We're actually at the early stage of standardization. As I mentioned, Siemens is the only company to have VDS or VDS approval. That really puts us at the head of the pack on this. Where we're also working is looking at standard procedures for the fire brigade. What exactly should they do? How should they react when they arrive at the source of the fire? And at the moment, we're recommending that they just leave the container and let the chemicals consume themselves, because entering the container or taking other drastic action could lead to serious injury or even death of the fire crew. So this is another area that we're looking at. Standardization for this sort of fire is still emerging. We're in discussions with the appropriate authorities, but it's really a developing story.
But nevertheless, a battery storage system in the basement, and you can sleep peacefully thanks to your protection concepts for lithium-ion batteries. Thank you very much, Jonathan.